2 years since the war began, Gaza's skyline shattered.
And in Egypt last week, Israel and Hamas disagreed on a ceasefire.
The numbers are staggering, the politics even heavier.
From mass protests in Europe to Trump's 20-point peace plan, every player is back on the board.
This isn't history, it's the present unfolding in real time.
You're watching Gen Politics.
Let's get into it.
On October 7th, 2023, Hamas militants launched a massive surprise attack into southern Israel, storming communities and a music festival. Around 1,200 people were killed and about 251 hostages were taken, according to Reuters.
Israel responded with a full-scale offensive in Gaza. Over 2 years of war, Gaza's health ministry says more than 67,000 Palestinians have been killed, nearly one-third of them children. Israeli strikes have devastated large parts of Gaza City and surrounding areas, displacing hundreds of thousands.
Independent assessments count roughly 193,000 buildings destroyed or damaged, and just 14 of Gaza's 36 hospitals are still partially functional.
On the Israeli side, around 1,665 people have died since the start of the conflict, including 1,200 killed on October 7th. But Gaza's humanitarian crisis remains the central tragedy setting the stage for today's ceasefire talks.
Right now in Gaza, devastation is visible everywhere. Smoke still rises over the enclave as memorials mark 2 years since the war began.
Aid agencies warned that famine is approaching, with over 500,000 Gazans facing famine-level hunger.
In recent weeks, violence has continued, roughly 9 Palestinians killed per day by Israeli fire, according to health officials.
Southern Gaza's so-called UN protected zones were overwhelmed with displaced families living in tents. Under a new US brokered plan, Israel has agreed to allow up to 400 to 600 aid trucks per day, a potential lifeline amid worsening shortages.
The war has fueled major protests worldwide. Across Europe, huge pro-Palestine rallies have filled the streets. In Italy, unions called nationwide strikes, and dock workers in Genova tried to block ports to support Gaza aid ships.
In Amsterdam, about 250,000 people marched calling for an end to the Gaza siege. Similar rallies took place in London and New York, where thousands have demonstrated during Prime Minister Netanyahu's UN visit.
Meanwhile, two flotilla missions tried to breach the Gaza blockade. The Global Summit Flotilla, with 14 boats and some 450 activists, including Greta Thunberg, was intercepted by Israel's Navy on October 2nd.
A second convoy from the Freedom Flotilla coalition faced the same fate on October the 8th. All vessels were towed to Ashdod port. Activists said that they carried medical aid. Israel maintained the blockade remains legal.
Last Thursday in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Egypt, Israeli and Hamas representatives have agreed upon the first phase of a ceasefire and prisoner hostage deal under the US brokered plan.
Reuters reports the agreement was mediated by the US, Qatar, Egypt and Turkey, with Donald Trump announcing that all hostages would be freed very soon.
The deal represents a clear signal of willingness to change the destiny of a region of the world which have suffered way too long.
And also the international community has finally found the right means to achieve something great. With this in mind, let's dive into the 20 points.
And now we're going to comment the 20-point deal. Just a little note, at the moment of recording, not all of the points have been agreed, and maybe others will not be agreed, and there will be changes. So keep it with a grain of salt. Let's start with the first 2 points. I have actually something to share with you, which is simply, if you read the first and second, one alludes to, well, explicitly alludes to a de-radicalized terror-free zone, and the second one alludes to the benefit of the people of Gaza. Now, I don't believe Gaza will be terror-free unless Hamas just goes and disbands. And I don't see that happening, especially due to the heavy bombing and the serious war crimes committed by Israel, which undoubtedly have fomented some new terror waves in the future. And this is a bit of a spoiler for some of the future points. And then the fact that this plan was for the benefit of the people of Gaza, I also don't think it's very true and honest. It's obviously for the interests of the US, for the interests of Israel, and I'm assuming a bit for those of the people of Gaza. But I don't know. It just seems a bit of a wasted word and wasted point. We can now go on to the unless you have any other comments here, Ale.
No, I just wanted to say that I mostly agree with you. Maybe not totally about the benefit of the people of Gaza. I mean, of course, there will be more interest for those participating in the reconstruction and something like that in terms of monetary gains, but for sure, at least in a sense, in a certain part, the people of Gaza will really benefit from it. But of course, when it happens this way, those who are the ones expected to receive the help are not really the ones that are benefiting the most. That I can give it to you.
Sure.
Well, yeah, as you said, we move to other key points, which actually are three, four, and five, which are the agreed upon ones. So point three is about the withdrawal of Israeli forces to the so-called yellow line, according to the pictures that have been shared also by Donald Trump and media in these days. And it is actually happening, as images you can see right now on our screen demonstrate. People are filming military vehicles and tanks withdrawing from the Gaza Strip, at least again just at the yellow lines so far. My question here, my comment is this gonna last or not? Is this gonna like work even after the release of hostages, which are point four and five, or like will Israel resume any operation once it has back all its citizens? I don't know. I guess this time it may work just because there are international guarantees. It's not like anymore between Israel and Hamas, Israel and Palestine, but there are international guarantees of Qatar, Turkey, other Arab countries, the United States, and as we understood, there are gonna be properly troops, peacemaking troops, peacekeeping troops on the ground, which will make it more difficult for Israel to resume attacks, since they would involve also attacking troops from other countries. So I think this time is gonna last. And also, as I said, point four and five are about the hostages, and we know that within 72 hours from the agreement, Israel and Hamas had to exchange hostages and also prisoners. At the time of recording, we know that Trump said it would happen between Monday and Tuesday. So we will see if this really happens. And also, to me, the release of hostages, the exchange of hostages, is not really fair from a point of view, as it happens many times with Western and non-Western like deals. And I want to hear from you, Ale. What do you think about this?
Well, if we're going purely based on numbers, they're exchanging 48 hostages. The Israeli people are receiving 48 hostages, 28 of whom are dead, for almost 2,000 Palestinians, of whom 215 are in prison. So, just based off of that, number wise, it's not fair. Like, literally, it's not semantically fair. Now, you could argue that Israel has exaggerated a lot with the killing, and so it probably balances itself out. And then, from a simple analytical point of view, it's obvious that this is the easiest part for Israel to gloss over because they will have other advantages, other benefits, and I don't think this is the top of the priority for Israel, even though they said, yeah, they're going to bring the hostages back, but they didn't say they wanted to keep those 2,000 Palestinians. So for that reason, it's not really, I think, that important. Now, another point, for example, number six, which I think is one of the important ones, is that Hamas has to give up their weapons. They have to disarm. It's not, in my opinion, not gonna happen. They're gonna keep those weapons privately, and even if they say they will keep those they will disarm. Simply put, there are terrorist organizations, and that's all for that point. Now, points 7, 8, and 9 have also been agreed, and for points 7 and 8, respectively, there has to be full aid given, and this aid has to be given without interference from any of the parties. I think also this is a straightforward point. It's fair for both, and I think it's going to happen. What about point 9?
Well, point nine is more about the subsequent phase, meaning the transitional governance of a technocratic, apolitical Palestinian committee, which is called Board of Peace, which like follows the guidelines of the Blair's program rather than really the Trump's one. In fact, many joke that the Trump's plan is simply a copy of Tony Blair's proposal of many years ago. And I think this is a very delicate part because you're gonna there should be like exactly an international transitional body monitored also possibly by the United Nations as well as from those countries which are guaranteeing right now this deal to ensure that no terrorists, no violent and radicalized component is going to take part in this Palestinian committee. Otherwise, we're going to have the case of Lebanon with Hezbollah involved in the government for many years, and so we're not really going to have a successful transitional government. But let me say that coming back quickly to the points you said before, 7 and 8, I'm really proud that also Italy is involved in the reconstruction and in the aid supply. And I'm also happy that we are there both in terms of humanitarian help and with our armed forces to guarantee that peace is kept. For example, I just knew that our Carabinieri will be part of the UBAM Rafa mission, which is taking place again. I think we can hover quickly on points 10 to 14 since they have not really been agreed upon and they are very delicate points which I think they will need careful negotiations because they are much about a Trump economic development plan and also the fact that Hamas will not have a role in the governance of Gaza, so that they are pretty difficult points, which I think we have to discuss them once we know more about them. And we can reach directly points 15 and 16, which are other 2 points that have been agreed upon. That is the establishment of a temporary international stabilization force and the fact that IDF will progressively hand over the Gaza territory and not occupy or annex it anymore. So do you have comments on this, Ale?
I don't. I just have a comment for all the economic related points, which is this is good for everyone participating, for example, Italy and America, who of course will gather resources, who will have investments, etc. So this is the benefit part that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And the last 4 points, 17 is about proceed in the terror-free areas and it over from IDF to the ISF, that is the International Stabilization Force. Then an interfaith dialogue, which I think in the territory of Israel and Palestine is crucial. We just think, for example, about Jerusalem. There are mosques, there are churches, there are synagogues. So an interfaith dialogue is crucial in that part of the world. But I think it's something that should happen not right now. There is too much anger right now between Jews and Muslims, and maybe if you want to involve also Christians. So I think it's something that should be done later on when also like the other parts of the agreement are already well working. Then point 19 is the credible pathway to a Palestinian self-determination statehood, aka two-state solution, the creation of really the Palestinian state. And again, this is even more complex than the interfaith dialogue, and this is for me the last point that should happen and can happen only after all the previous 18 points are concretely working. And then point 20 is simply that the United States will establish a dialogue between Israel and Palestinians to agree basically on point 19. So I think this is really important. I just want to quickly comment here on Netanyahu's position because I've heard these days a lot of things about his risk, meaning if he's going to keep his position in the parliament, since he was supported by his opposition to sign this deal, but the extreme far-right, Israeli far-right, is totally against this deal. They define it as a military defeat. They wanted the attacks to go on and to annihilate every single Hamas militant. And so this raises a question: is Bibi gonna maintain his seat, or like is the parliament gonna collapse one day or another because of this agreement? I don't know. This is interesting. I'm gonna expect this, also considering that, if I'm not wrong, in 1 or 2 years there are gonna be elections in Israel. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this.
Yeah, just some final thoughts on tolerance, peaceful coexistence. And yeah, no, it's not going to happen. And not in the short term. There's just hatred and rage on both sides. That's just like a liberal Western thing to put in the deal, but it's not happening for now, which is sad, of course, but it's the reality of things. And then regarding a two-state solution, I think that is the final solution to look up to, but that too will have a precondition, which is both countries have to respect each other, and that is not happening soon either. So yeah, as you said, that has to be the final point to address in the long term.
And that's the wrap. From Gaza to Cairo, the war's end may finally be in motion.
But what do you think? Is this real peace or just another pause? Drop your take in the comments.
We'll be back in 2 weeks with another video.
Subscribe, follow, and join us here on YouTube, Spotify, Insta, X, wherever you listen or watch.
Stay informed, stay engaged.
Peace till next time.